All right, everybody, welcome back to the City Slicker podcast. This is the Week 4 podcast, and I have a very special guest with me today, childhood friend of mine, Nathan White. Nathan, I'd like to welcome you to the podcast.
Thanks, Brady. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you. So, like I had mentioned last week, I wanted to bring Nathan in here, and I wanted to talk about what it takes to make it in the automotive trade and kind of like to get on more of a personal level, and we can talk about our friendship and kind of how it started. But Nathan, kind of where did me and you meet, or how did we become acquainted with one another?
We've done so much together, and I don't even know. We've been friends for so long. Okay, we've done so much. I couldn't even remember everything we did, but then yet again I can.
For sure. And really, a lot of times what happens is if Nathan ever forgets anything, I remember it down to the T, practically the time, and I can remind him. Sometimes he forgets, and I'm like, no, you remember that, and then he does. But it's always interesting. Me and Nathan, we kind of started out. We've always really been friends, but we got really close around freshman year or whatever, and our friendship got a lot stronger over COVID. When did COVID start for us? Were we like sophomores?
I think we even started like 8th grade, because that's when shooting sports started.
So that's been a big thing. Shooting sports. So we've always been friends, but shooting sports and all that. So the dairy farm that I work on, me and Nathan have been going there for many years, and the farmer, Bill, he likes to give us a bunch of crap about our shooting. He always says that there's more shells on the ground than there is birds, which is true, but
always true.
Bill, it's always fun to go up there and talk to Bill, because he likes to heckle us about our shooting.
Tough year off.
Yep, it's always nice. But the shooting team, I had kind of mentioned a little bit about that last week, or it might have been a couple weeks ago, where I talk on the shooting team. So actually, kind of an interesting thing that I'd like to bring up is, so me and Nathan have graduated. Both we are in the trades. So I've kind of dipped my toes in a few, like the excavating, and at the moment I'm working at the dairy farm, but Nathan's in the automotive trade. But we both have gotten the opportunity that we're going to take, and we get to go back and help coach the shooting team we shot on as high schoolers and even middle schoolers when we were in 8th grade. So we shot on the team for 5 years. We've kind of will get to bring a new side of it, because our coaches, Matt, Rick Fillmore, and Corey Brewer, and we've had many other coaches, but they're our main coaches, and we kind of get to bring a different aspect to it, which we're kind of both excited about.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really good time. I'm very excited for it, and it's definitely gonna be cool to see the new athletes on there and new shooters, and teach them kind of what we've learned over the 4 or 5 years that we've shot on the team. I mean, the first time I went and shot on the team during 8th grade, our first practice, I remember that was my first time ever shooting out of clay, and I'm pretty sure I shot 13 out of 25. But that was great for me at the time. I mean,
at the start, we were all just rocking me and Nathan, even at the end, we were always using our gun that we hunted with. There's all manner of trap guns and all this, whatever. But Nathan bought one gun and stayed with it. But we both started out with a 20 gauge. They could practically not pry them out of our hands. We both shot 20 gauge because that's what we shot at the farm. And Nathan dipped into the 12 gauge, I think, before I even left.
No, I used a club gun.
I did, because mine broke.
Yeah, your 20 gauge broke, and you started using the one of the guns that we got donated to us the first year.
Yep.
And you just never went back from 12 gauge from there. You went to your your dad's old 12 gauge?
I kind of dabbled in a few, but they were all hunting guns. I think it was my dad's old one, and then I was like, yeah, this one. I mean, it would hold up, but the amount of rounds that we were putting through shotguns, it's kind of important to get a nice one. So then I bought the same shotgun that my 20 gauge was and 12 gauge, and then I got the nickname like the click guy out there. I was always that guy that the gun would go click, so that didn't really work out.
The old 12 gauge, that one. He bought an identical 12 gauge, the one identical to his 20 gauge, and his 20 gauge was a great gun, always a great gun. That's why he bought it. and it was a good price point at the time, and we started using it a little bit. I shot it a couple times. I was like, yeah, it's all right. I like it, and he really loved it because it was just like his 20 gauge, but that thing would misfire every other time.
Ooh.
It was bad. It was getting real bad. It started out okay, but it got bad.
It got bad, though, and everybody go, you need to clean that. And I mean, I would sometimes clean it.
I'd go over there and clean it more than you, I think.
Yeah, Nathan, he does the work on my vehicles, and I have him clean my guns too. he does a good job, but that gun was just kind of, I think I just got a lemon. So then from there, I went to he had bought his Franke, which is pretty special.
So I started with my 20 gauge. I think it was what was it? It was a Stevens 302 or something like that.
Good old pump gun.
301. I don't remember what it was.
Old Stevens.
But it was a pump 20 gauge. It was $250 from Gander Outdoors at the time. They had just reopened from Gander Mountain shutting down. And me and my dad went in there and we were looking for a gun for trap because I didn't want to use a club gun at the time. And we found that one. I was trying to decide between that. It was all black receiver, black barrel, black synthetic stock and 4-round and everything. And I remember holding that, and I was like, man, this feels good. For a $250 gun, I was surprised. And then I held the $350 Remington 870 20 gauge that was wood stock, and it looked so much better, but it felt awful. They were both youth models at the time. I mean, my gun had a 26-inch barrel, which was long for a 20 gauge, but the stock was half the length of that. It was so tiny.
Yeah, it was a good gun, but as we got a little bit older and got a little bit bigger, we kind of and a little bit more money because, like, other than the fact that mine was a gift, we always were buying our guns, like, that we were mowing grass so we could buy guns because I remember we got on a stretch where it was like, I think that year I was on a 2-gun-a-year thing, but, like, that doesn't sound like much now that we're older. Like, we could really, if you wanted to buy whatever, you could. Right. But we were cutting grass to buy a new gun because it was whatever, or we were getting shells. I know our parents have both dumped quite a few, hundreds of dollars in shells, so thank you guys.
Well, yeah. So when we first started, it was, what, $40? Not even. It was like $30, $29.
Yeah, it was like, I think...
a brick
no, it was like $24.
Yeah.
It was the low 20s.
Yeah, something like that. For a brick, which is 4 25-round boxes, 100 shells of 12 gauge or 20 gauge, didn't matter. And now it's like 36, 40, something like that.
Yeah, our parents used to joke because it's like they never could go to the store for just groceries. They always had to go to the ammo aisle and supply me and Nathan with more ammo because over COVID, it's like you can't really go out in public and do a whole bunch or whatever. But me and Nathan were around each other because we were working or whatever. But we would go to the farm and we'd shoot. But
we'd go to the farm. Usually we'd only bring a box each to shoot to limit ourselves. We could sit there all day and shoot. But we'd have to limit ourselves so we didn't go through 100 rounds a day there. I mean, we had a blast, just, competition, see how many of each species we could shoot. We were shooting pigeons, sparrows, starlings.
Yep, all the usual on the farm. But we'd go there, and I think it kind of contributed to some of our success out there on the trap range because when you can get out there and you shoot birds that go like at different speeds and they're coming from different angles. It's kind of like skeet, but it's not controlled. And the birds are coming out, you learn your gun a lot better because then you're better at establishing leads. So me and Nathan were coming in there. At one point, Nathan was number one in the state he was the number one in the state for our fall season. But what happened is like you can go on the farm and you can shoot this sparrow that's this big. Well, when we get to trap practice, we sit at a designated range, and the targets are literally bright orange, so it's like shooting fish in a barrel when you get out there. Obviously, you're going to miss a few, but once we started getting the farm, shooting done, and then we would, as we came on, like Nathan said, he started out his first round, it was like a 13, and I think mine was somewhere near there. We were just there for the camaraderie. We weren't necessarily there because we were trying to be the best of the best, but as it came out, like when it got to the end, we were some stone cold killers out there. We got there, we meant business, we had fun, but when we were out on the line, it was game time.
We were the most consistent the whole time too. We'd have competitors and stuff go out there and during practices and you still turn in scores for the week, and you'd see their scores, their averages would be up there higher than yours and whatever. but you'd go to state or regionals or whatever competition, nationals even, and they'd come out there and shoot 10 clays below their average because they can't handle the pressure. Where we stayed consistent the whole time. Usually, I think our first year, it was struggling to get to 20s.
Yep.
But I know, like, my best year was senior fall season. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
And that's when I was number 1 in the state for fall, and I had a 24.6 clay average out of 25 clays. So I was consistently shooting 24s and 25s every round.
Yeah, and my average stayed the same after like high school, kind of getting there. I was in the high 22 point whatevers to the lower 23 whatever. So in each round you shoot 25. So if you're getting 23 a round, you're only missing 2. That's pretty darn good. And a lot of times it's just kind of like a freak mistake, or sometimes like in your head you be like, you're gonna miss it, and then you shoot, and then you do. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like,
It's a lot of mind game, honestly.
Yeah, you get up there, and towards the end I started listening to music because I'm very well driven by music, and when I start listening to music out there, I forget about everything, because like once you shoot, you have to wait for everybody. It's not like you just go up there and shoot your 25 and get back. You know, you gotta wait. So you have all that time to think about everything. But really, once you get in a group and you have a good group of 5 and you get in a roll, like when I would shoot next to Nathan, like even when we're on the farm, I could pull my gun up and already have my safety up, because I knew, like in my head, muscle memory, like I knew exactly when Nathan was going to shoot. So my shell was in the gun as soon as he pulled the trigger, and I knew when he was going to shoot. It just kind of, you get it, chemistry with your line, and me and Nathan really had that out there. And we would feed off each other. So like if he was doing bad, I'd be doing good, or if I'm doing bad, Nathan just be doing a lot better than me. One time it was like one of our last, I'm like, hey Nate, I'm kind of down 1 clay. This is like our last time together. You know, maybe we could end on a tie. He's like, no, I ain't doing that. And so I was like, come on.
I ended up beating him by 1 clay.
Beat me by 1 clay. It was interesting.
We've done that a lot. And
he always beat me by 1 clay. Didn't matter. Always won. Didn't matter. One season though, we shot the same score.
Exact same average, exact same scores.
Everything the same.
If I would shoot a 23 one round and shoot a 21 next round, he would shoot a 21 first round, then a 23 second round. We went back and forth the entire season. That was a cool season.
Yeah. So,
and
yeah.
I feed off him, he feeds off me, and like what he was saying about him always having a shell in the gun, like he always knew when I was gonna shoot. It actually helped me, because that would let me know if I was shooting too early or too late, and that would mean I was getting in my head. And I didn't struggle with that a whole lot, but you know, everybody struggles with it a little bit. You can't get around it sometimes.
Yep.
And I've seen multiple shooters struggle with it so bad that, you know, they go from shooting super high 20s to low 20s, high teens.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about when you kind of say something like that. We won't add him on here, but I know what you're saying there. Yeah, your attitude when you're out there is really important. But shooting kind of has brought me and Nathan together quite a bit. You know, we do a lot of deer hunting and all that. Maybe here in a little bit we can talk some more about that. But that was kind of a little backstory. If you can believe it, we've already been talking for 15 minutes.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. We can sit here and talk for
It's
hours.
so funny, like having the nice equipment or whatever. Like Nathan, before we got here, he put on the headphones or whatever, and you can hear yourself. It's kind of interesting because, you know, we both watch podcasts, and it was part of what got me into it. You know, like I had mentioned before, I got in my wreck, and so I could do literally nothing. Like I was on nothing because it's my neck, and you're not supposed to mess with anything. So I kind of felt useless, but getting on YouTube and podcasts and listening to them, you know, I started talking to Nathan. I'm like, you know, these guys we watch, I'm like, I really enjoy these podcasts. I'm like, I can do that. Like, I could literally do that. So here, after a while, I got all the stuff together, and it's been a month. So this is the 4th one. This channel, so for the video users or whatever, that people that watch on YouTube, even if you watch both ways, but this channel won't only be podcasts, so kind of don't know if it's in frame, but over here I had kind of hinted last week to the fact that I was getting a new vehicle. So I have sold the Ford Ranger and I've gotten the new vehicle. Nathan, being my mechanic, which is what we're going to get into here in a second, kind of ran everything by him before and what I want to do with it. And so we're going to be starting a build on a vehicle. I'm not gonna add it yet because it's gonna be a video. So we'll have that posted. I don't know when we're gonna do that. Probably once we get all the parts and the main first stuff or whatever, we'll introduce it.
Figure out everything you want to do.
I know a couple of our friends know, so I imagine somebody will chirp and say what I got, or you'll see me in town driving it, but we'll see. So it's not a build right now, but when we're finished with what we want to do with it, it'll be something. So kind of what I want to get into, I had kind of just hinted to it about Nathan being in the auto mechanics. So he and I both went to Career Center. He took the auto trades. So tell him kind of how you got in here now as what you got as your gig that you work at now.
So I've always, liked tinkering with vehicles. I've tried to build motor-powered bikes with weed eater engines and done all sorts of stuff. And me and my dad have built a trailer and stuff. I've always liked that stuff. And my first truck, loved it.
Yeah.
1995 Dodge Dakota. You've probably seen it in one of his TikTok videos, kind of.
Yeah, a little portion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were sliding around. We're like, we're in the ditch.
That truck was so great.
So many memories.
Body wasn't too terrible, and I might have put it on its side, but she ran the next day. So, and then one of my longest burnouts that next day too.
Bernie.
But we fixed that up, put brake lines on it, got a tune-up going on it, and that truck ran great always. And unfortunately, I had to sell it because it was my main form of transportation, and the upper control arm had ripped off the frame from rust. So, but the guy that bought it from me said he was going to get it going. I've been hoping to see it on the road, have not yet, but I really want to get another one. But that's where I always kind of started with it, and then I decided I was really liking the idea of mechanical engineering. And so I went into CAD my junior year at Career Center, and because I thought it was going to be a lot of machining and making parts, designing it and making it, and it was, but it wasn't a lot of it.
Always been a creator, he can, even sometimes my imagination, if I need something, but Nathan knows how to put it into, get it out there and how to follow through and what steps you can use. He's always, with your 3D printer,
Yeah, I bought a 3D printer. I used some fair money and bought a 3D printer, and I printed a lot with that stuff. And our buddy Wyatt was doing it for a little bit too, and we were kind of feeding off each other with that. I was making all sorts of different
He 3D
stuff.
printed a part for his that 20 gauge we were talking about, because as he's grown up, it was too short. He 3D printed a part for that so that we could still shoot that gun. So it's got his red plastic
It's got a
with the butt pad
spacer
on it, and you can shoot it now that we're older and it's a little bit longer. It's funny though.
It worked. It was functional. It did not look the best, but it was functional.
It was something.
Yeah, and I always had a good time with it, but ultimately it just wasn't where I wanted to go. I couldn't sit at a computer that long. I'm sitting here jittering just talking, so I definitely had to be up and moving. So I decided to switch to the automotive program for my senior year. And I went in there with a pretty decent skill set, just from working on my own stuff, working on buddy stuff, doing whatever, modifying the S10 a lot.
Oh yeah, the old S10. Nathan, I always said, I fund the projects, and Nathan's the mastermind behind putting it together. I have the imagination of what it wants to be. I tell Nathan, and then he puts it into the ability. He puts it out there, and we
try to put it into the real world spectrum of stuff. I'm pretty good with knowing how a lot of different things work, so I can get a variety of different ideas for trying to put something together that probably shouldn't be together, but is a very cool idea.
Yep, definitely.
He's always been good with getting ideas going. Sometimes I struggle with that, but usually I can make it happen.
Yeah, sometimes we're doing something. He's like, I don't know. I said, Nate, there's no room for nothing. We said, we don't care about that. It just got to get done. Doesn't matter how, but we're going to get it done.
And sometimes I'm also voice of reason, too.
yeah, sometimes he's over here, doubting himself. I'm like, nope, you got this. It's everything's going to work out. We got it. So.
Yeah. It's always a good time. But when I was in the automotive program, we were going through all of our, we call them task sheets, which is just different things that we had to complete to our instructors' specifications.
Yep.
So brakes, being drum brakes, and disc brakes. We had to be able to complete a full repair on brakes, and we had to be able to track down and make brake lines. We had to be able to do all sorts of stuff, soldering wires. We had to weld at one point, and I didn't realize I'm pretty good at welding, and I'm never learned
You've always
to
been
weld.
intrigued with it, like
Yeah. I always because I thought it was so cool that you could take two pieces of metal and bond them together in 30 seconds. And it was so intriguing to me. And then I turned out to be pretty good at it.
Yep.
And I try anyway with my equipment.
Yeah,
Some of the old stick welders.
We've got some stick welder stories. I tell you what, we did one where I had this imagination where I needed to make me a racing lawnmower. Well, we needed to weld, and the one time where I decide, I'm gonna weld this time. I'm gonna weld this. So, or it might have, I don't even know if we'd started welding, and I was just kind of tinkering it out or whatever. Something. Let's just say, whether it be the lack of some common sense or brain cells or something of that nature, I electrocuted myself like 3 or 4 times, and I don't know how, still, I don't know how, but I shocked the living crap out of myself every time on that thing. I don't know, I was trying to weld, and I'm like, oh! And I would just get lit up, and it was not fun.
I remember one of my biggest welding projects was doing the exhaust on his Ranger. We did true dual exhaust on it with a muffler and a side exit, like where a NASCAR would exit in front of the right rear tire.
Yeah.
And that was a cool job.
Sounded
and I remember
good.
you being so amazed at the geometries of the exhaust I had to do because I was cutting at angles, and you're like, how's that going to work? And then I put it together, and it made a bend that we didn't have.
Yeah, we did not buy a kit. Like, we didn't buy a kit off the internet. We used the old downpipe, and all the angles off of that, we were cutting them at angles and stuff like that. And Nathan just put them all together, and bam, we had
pie cuts. I think I spent probably 2 hours welding.
Oh, it was a job.
It was a job, but it turned out good. I mean, for the most part.
It sounded good. I think it had a more unique sound than some of the other straight pipe Rangers.
I've never heard a Ranger sound like that. We have a buddy, Bryson Cox.
Yeah, Bryson's.
His Ranger, his is the OG Ranger.
His is the OG, yeah.
That'll never die. But he's just got a muffler delete, essentially. Still have Cadillac converters on it. And that thing sounds good. But this one was no Cadillac converters, just an aftermarket muffler because his Cadillac converters were plugged. So we had to remove them at some point, and they don't make a catless downpipe or anything. So we had to custom fab a new, not even a Y pipe because it's true duals, but just new downpipes for both sides, and we had to squeeze it between the cross member for the transfer case and everything. It was a tight job, but
very tight.
And especially because he wanted to side exit, and Ranger wheelbases are so short.
That's part of the me. Yeah, we don't. It's got to get done, so figure it out. And
for the square peg
that was very tight. I'm like, shoot, because I went, Nathan, I'm gonna show up at your work right after, and I'm gonna have all the things. So I just went out and as we've done many exhaust jobs or whatever, I kind of figured it out.
Every vehicle.
Got everything. And, mind you, this Ranger, I said, I'm not going to do anything. Well, then the cats get plugged, and I have to cut them off because I can't get up to 40 mile an hour without, like, an 8-mile stretch or even more than that. But, so, more on to how Nathan got in here. So he did that at the Career Center, and like me, how I had kind of mentioned a little bit last week how I wanted to go on OJT, he decided that he wanted to go on OJT, and he ended up here. So
I was working with Brady at Avra's, doing lawn care and all sorts of other stuff. We did miscellaneous everything. But I decided, my uncle works here at Bobelia Chrysler, and I was in the automotive program, so he was obviously watching me, and they decided that I might be a good idea to try to bring on for OJT. To get more techs in here because they had one tech leave, but is since now back. So I decided to do OJT my second semester, and they don't usually do that very often because it was my first year in the auto program. But it seems how I had my prior skill set, it gave them more incentive to send me over to OJT, and I learned way more on OJT working here than I did in the classroom because it was a slow pace yeah, I learned quite a lot, but I learned just as much in 2 weeks here that I learned in a whole 9-week semester at Career Center.
I totally agree with that, and I had kind of talked on that on the last episode where I talked about being open to, like, you learn, obviously when you learn automotive stuff, it's like this is how it's done, but I had talked last week about being open to when you learn, like, let's say you're at a technical application school, you're going to learn this way, but once you get on a crew or get inside a business, they're going to do it their own way. So, like, really when you come here, it's like there's the way that they do it at Center, and then you get here, and then there was how you kind of ran it here and how they ran their game. Obviously, the repair and stuff is going to be the same because it's just that's what you have to repair, but that. So
and there was stuff we learned at Career Center that, you know, didn't apply here. And, you know, there was a lot of stuff that did, but there was a lot that didn't as well. Some stuff is just unnecessary as far as I look at it. But, you know, everything is still done right. It's just some steps. You have to make shortcuts in order to make money in the automotive industry. And a shortcut is not like cheating somebody out of proper workmanship. It's finding a way to do it faster, but with the same quality or better.
Definitely. And would you say that there's anything that from Career Center, because I imagine there'll be someone here from Career Center that you has stuck with you the most, or anything that you like learned that's like been you use Keeley in your day at school or here at work?
Probably one of the things I use most here still that I learned at Career Center was brake line bending and flaring and stuff. And I'm fortunate enough to have shop provided brake tube flare. I have one at my house too, but I've had to do, I know on our buddy Riley's first gen, I had to repair all sorts of brake lines on that thing. And I've had to do them for myself. I've even flaring fuel lines for a quick fix. I've had to do that. And that's one of the things that stuck with me the most. And I had to use it at a, what was it, regionals.
Yeah, I was going to ask, isn't there a competition that you went to do that?
Yeah, so we did our local competition, which is just within our Career Center, and I ended up first place in that. That was, there was like 8 different stations you had to do, but just a few of them were like soldering wires, flaring brake tubes, welding, testing batteries, doing disc brakes and drum brakes, and you had like, depending on the station, you had 5 to 10 minutes at each station to complete a task and get it done. And based on what you got done and in the timely manner you got it done in, you got points. And so I got first place at locals. Then we went to regionals. I ended up second place at regionals, which they take top 3 to state. So I qualified for state. Went to state and placed, I think, 5th. It was definitely an eye-opener. And for being my first year doing it, you only get to do it once a year. So I was my senior year, so I didn't get to do it again. But if I would have got to do it again, I would have definitely like known what to expect. And I had no clue what to expect going into it because we only had one senior in our class going into it. One second-year student, I should say. We had multiple seniors, but only one second-year student. And he wasn't even there, so we had no clue what to expect as far as that went. But I definitely learned a lot from the competitions.
That's awesome. And I know that a lot of people that, I guess something that I would ask for your next question, I know a lot of people that are our age, we have quite a few friends that are still at the Career Center talking about it. What would be something that you would say that if you're going to get into this side of the trades or whatever, what's something that you would say that people should do to prepare or at least just know to expect that you wouldn't have expected? Like, I know something that a lot of guys say, like with the electrical side of everything, is like prepare for your hands to be tore up, because like with electrical, you know, there's like all this thing, but it's like you're gonna get shocked, you're gonna get cut, you're gonna get everything, so just be prepared for stuff like that. But what's maybe something like automotive wise?
I mean, as far as your hands go, yeah, that too. I mean, mine are almost always black.
You have no nerve endings, like his nerves in his hands are pretty well gone because of being burnt.
Like temperature sense, it's got to be super hot for me to feel it now, because I've just been burnt so many times by hot coolant or when I'm welding or anything like that. accidentally touching the stuff that's really hot.
But that's just stuff that comes with the territory with
It
being in
comes
the
with
trades.
it.
Yep.
And I work at a dealership too, so I get sometimes I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I get to work on a lot of newer cars. It's honestly not the case. I mean, I'm not working on anything that's over like 40 years old, but like sometimes you'll see at your independent shops. But even independent shops will send their alignments here because they don't have an alignment machine, and we do. So I will work on, early to late 90s stuff quite often, just doing alignments.
Yep.
They'd replace something and just needed aligned, and that's a hassle in itself. Alignments can be terrible sometimes, but other times, you can get them done in 20 minutes or less.
Yeah.
But so that hands-wise, they're gonna get tore up, no doubt about it. You got, especially with these newer vehicles, there's so many smaller spots you got to get into. I know with our Mopar stuff, they moved all the engines down and backwards in the engine bays now, closer to the firewall, closer to your cabin. So you have more room up front, but 90% of the time when you got to work on the motor, it's in the back, and or in the valley of it, and it just makes everything harder to get out, anything like that. So, and a big financial aspect of it too. I would recommend try to find the best deals you can. You don't always have to go with name brand, higher end tool brands like you would see Snap-on, Cornwell, Matco. Honestly, my 1/2-inch drive sockets are Milwaukee. It was $200 for a whole set. That was a great deal. And they still have a deal similar to it, but you can't find a deal like that on any of those tool trucks.
And for the guys like, you're just getting into the trades or whatever, like you have a grad party and, people come and a lot of times they're going to give you a card and there'll be money in it. Don't go out and waste that. Like apply that towards your future, because like I know it was a big thing when there was one scholarship that a local business owner did. Nathan and I applied for it, and Nathan ended up getting it. Like, that went towards it. Like, if you don't have that in your mind right now, like, let's say that you're just graduating right now, you're, like, only thing you're worried about is buying dinner for you and your girlfriend and filling up your truck every week. Think about your future, because, like, I know when Nathan did this, like, here working at his dealership, this is all his stuff, but you're preparing for your future, and don't just, like, don't waste your money on stuff, like, put your money towards your tools. Like, I know Nathan or whatever, he's like, he was finding all these deals, like he's getting all this stuff, because you got to think when you're buying school supplies, that's just for the year, and then you pitch your notebook or your pens or junk and you just throw them away. These tools are what are going to make your money, in the trades. It's kind of stuff that's overlooked. A lot of people don't think about it, like the damage we do to our bodies, like our hands are destroyed because of working every day. You're smacking them with a hammer, I don't know where I was going. What was it? So, in the trades, it's kind of overlooked. Spend your money towards this. Like, put it towards your future. Don't waste your money. I know what I did. It's kind of always been something that I've done, just been able to flip things or whatever. But I took what I had gotten from graduation, and I invested it and actually flipped it. I had some debt of mine that I needed to pay off, and I used my graduation money, and it was kind of a risk, but I invested it in investment, and I ended up flipping it and made money with mine. So that's something that I would say would be smart. Like, if you're graduating or getting into a trade, like if there's a scholarship for trades or whatever, apply for it, and then use your money wisely from your grad party to help towards your future. Would you say that's pretty important?
So I was just actually talking to my brother about this, today or yesterday, something. But if I've learned anything going through high school and to where I'm at right now, save your money, because I know we've always called it balling on a budget. So
yes.
Everything we do is balling on a budget. We're making it happen, but we're doing it the cheapest way we can, and we're getting to the point where we're getting more quality stuff, so it's easier to do when you get quality stuff.
Yes.
But when you're 16 in high school and don't have a ton of money, you're balling on a budget. You make do with what you got.
Balling.
So Yeah, that's something we've always used and probably will always use.
I'm so happy you said that because I forgot about that because I use that phrase a lot, balling on a budget. I wanted to start a hunting YouTube channel with Nathan that was like balling on a budget hunting because when you go hunting or whatever, there's like hunting, like all of our hobbies have a very large upfront cost. Like if you ever thought about getting into goose hunting or anything like that, dish out $500 for a couple dozen decoys.
That's if you don't already have a gun.
Yeah, that's if you don't already have a gun. You know, $700, $800 if you want a decent inertia driven.
My Frankie that I bought, best gun I've ever bought. That was $700 on sale before taxes.
Yep.
But it's the best gun I've ever bought. I've put thousands and thousands of rounds through that thing because I've used it 2 years through trap, which is 4 seasons, fall and spring. And, you know, we were shooting thousands of rounds per season, and I have never broken apart on that thing. It's only clicked on me twice. Every time he touches it, I swear it clicks at least once.
I will say this right now. I happen to be the first click of that gun. I got it. I own that.
Yeah, but in my 3 years of owning it now and thousands of rounds, it's clicked on me twice. And it's been my most consistent, best gun I've ever bought. And... But yeah, that was that gun runs $800 retail now before taxes.
Yep.
And I bought that when I just turned 17, and but I wanted to buy a quality gun because I didn't want to have to buy another one for a while.
Yep.
And so I was like, "Yep, I'm putting this money towards it," and I that's one of my best purchases I've ever done.
Invest in your future.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my parents could watch this and laugh because I am spitting all this game like, oh, save your money, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously you're going to have your things that you spend, but, you know, make sure that if you're spending it, you gotta at least have some, somewhat of a backing or whatever because, like, I know my parents are going to laugh when we get to that part about how we save your money. You know, they always were like, you're wasting your money.
Yep.
Like, spending your money on your, so really part of it was an excuse, but when we would do our exhaust jobs, it's like, well, while we're here, might as well cut the cats off and pay for this exhaust job.
Every time he figured out a way, every time we did an exhaust job, whether that be on his S10, which had like 4 different variations, or on his any one of his vehicles, any one of them.
There's been a few main vehicles and a few side, we call them like our side pieces, a couple side pieces.
Yeah, he made money on every one of those doing an exhaust modification to what we wanted it to be, which I have no clue how he did it.
Nathan one time literally just freaked out. He goes, how are you doing this? He's like, you're making money and to straight pipe your truck. Because I remember sitting in, it would be Mr. Piper. So if Mr. Piper watches this, he might remember. But me and Bryson were sitting in our, it was our government online class. He's like, Brady, just cut the muffler off of your S10 because he cut the muffler off of his Ranger. Well, lo and behold, Bryson does that, and then what happens is after school, I had called my dad. I said, Dad, can I cut the muffler off my truck? And he goes, no. So then obviously I wanted to do it more because he said no. And me, Nathan, and Bryson went over and cut it, and lo and behold, after Bryson cut his muffler off first, that was my thing, was cutting your muffler off. Now this new vehicle, I don't think we're going to do anything, but I said that about the other one, so we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see, yeah.
We'll see. It's easy to put a muffler on there now that I know how to do that.
Yeah.
You just go to the old auto value, but I guess what would be another good question to ask about the automotive
But
stuff?
big point on that, save your money throughout high school. I know it's hard because there's so much you want to do, and you're going to get there, trust me. You just need to save. I wish I would have saved. I did not.
Stuff don't happen overnight.
No.
Like, it's important. I would say that I should probably get a little better about saving my money. I've always kind of been just all or nothing, just jump into it and see where we go. But if you're gonna spend money, at least make sure that it can make you money back. Because if you can justify a purchase like that, like an asset or something like that, like a lawnmower or something like that.
Assets.
Yep, appreciating. It's big words. But what else would be something that a new person getting into this trade would be? Well,
You got to be very open-minded in any trade. But especially if you work at an independent shop, you got to work on every brand of vehicle that comes in, anyone that comes in. And even here at a Dodge dealership, we work on whatever people bring in because we have a scanner that is capable of doing so. Obviously, we have more control with our dealership brand stuff, Mopar stuff, but I've worked on Jaguars, I've worked on Hondas, I've worked on Fords, Chevys, and I worked on everything. Not everything, but I've worked on
a lot,
a wide variety of stuff.
A lot of people that might watch this, you might have worked on their vehicle.
Yeah, and I have worked here just over a year now.
And you learn something every day.
Every day you learn something, and you'll remember stuff. You have to be able to remember stuff. So some things will stick, some things that won't. What I've come to think about it is if it didn't stick, or at least a little bit in your memory, it wasn't worth remembering.
Yep.
Like even when
I could agree with that.
Like even when our memories that I might forget a little bit, he says one thing, oh, I remember it now.
Yep.
And that's still remembering it. It's just
the core.
There's a lot to put up here, and I ain't got a lot of room.
Yeah, the core memories or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan saved the space to fix everything. I saved the space to remember how everything went and whatever. Sometimes Snapchat's good for that because, like, when we did electrical jobs, I would go back through after we were done and video it, and then it'd be a couple weeks down the line, and then someone would say something about it or ask, and I say, hey, you want to remember what that panel looked like that we did or whatever? And I hop on Snapchat, and go back. And I would say that I had mentioned a couple weeks ago on social media, like about how I would rather be, I think it was one of my audio podcasts, where I'd rather be making content than watching it, but I do my fair share of both. But, I would say that that's one thing that Snapchat has, like the memory or whatever. We've got some good memories that, they go into the City Slicker group chat or whatever that pop up from Snapchat, and those are very important. So if you got Snapchat or whatever and you don't save some of those, you'll appreciate them, because I know some things that pop up on there you didn't think you would appreciate them until they become a memory. Right. I would agree. I would say something like that, but
definitely.
What's the hierarchy like? Because I had mentioned last week about how when it was great because you talked about how when you were in class you were just completing achievement sheets or whatever that your instructor was saying. What's the hierarchy like here? Obviously, I had said last week when you get into the trades, it's not just you and your boss. It's you, your foreman, the people that are above you that have been here longer. What's that like when you get into a shop or something like that?
Honestly, I would say it's probably 70 to 80% about your work ethic. If you're putting in the work and you're outworking some of the other people in the shop, they're gonna look up to you more and
earn your keep.
Yeah, definitely earning your keep. And but you also have to know your worth at the same time. Don't work for nothing. Don't
get a big head.
Yeah,
that's probably a very good thing. Don't get a big head.
Very much so. A guy that's been here for 15 years they're gonna have their tricks, and you're not gonna be able to outsmart them always. Sometimes a fresh mind coming into it works way better, but it's just all about the situation. And but as far as that goes, you got to work your butt off no matter what trade you're in.
Earn it.
And yeah, you have to. And if you're going into a trade, you're gonna earn everything. What you put in is what you'll get out.
And that's where that is a great statement, because a lot of people ask me, well, what are you gonna do with your podcast and what are you gonna do with YouTube? And we were actually at dinner. Me, Nathan, and his girlfriend were at dinner the other night, and I had talked to these guys or whatever, and I had talked about the trades. And what I was saying to them was, us guys that go in the trades, something that a lot of people overlook, like right now all our line guys are out because we just had a very large ice storm. They're out freezing their butt off. So I think what the next podcast probably will be, but I'm not 100% sure, is I'm going to have a lineman come and talk about the ice storm of 2023. That was pretty bad. But,
minus the trucks I seen sitting out here when they had eaten lunch with their windows open.
Yeah,
in 45-degree weather today.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
paid probably $80 an hour, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah. We won't talk.
Little stab there.
Yeah. So I kind of lost my line, but what I was going for is going into the trades. Us guys, we're not going to college, so we get some sort of or what would you call it? Certification. Yeah, a certification. More of that as your schooling, but when you go into the trades, it's all or nothing. So when you're doing anything in life, it's like trade-wise, it's all or nothing. So we don't have nothing to fall back on other than our certifications. So if you're going to get in here, you really got to be a savage and you got to be hungry, because if you're not going to want to put in the effort, you're going to get ran over.
Right after you get out of school is the best time to be working your butt off. See, what I've always liked to go by is work your butt off now so you don't have to later.
Yep.
Even though you're going to later anyway.
But have fun while you're doing it,
If you're in the trades, that's probably going to be your mindset, just to work your butt off. But you don't want to overwork yourself because you'll burn yourself out. And sometimes also you got to look into yourself. You can't just go into something and say, "Yep, I'm going to be
bet
in
on
this
yourself."
trade." You have to know. Like, he's been through so many different trades, and you have to figure out which one's right for you.
Yep.
Because if you just go into one trade and stay there and you hate your job, you're not going to be a good employee.
That's where I was at doing the excavation. It wasn't. Don't get me wrong; those guys do excavation work. That work is, some of it's like nuts. But it wasn't for my lack of work ethic or ability. It was just I had no passion. What I was working for, lunch was at 11:30. I was working to lunch, and then after lunch, I was like head down, and it's the same amount of time I worked there. I got to work to lunch, to the end of the day. That's not the way to go about it. Find what's you, and while you're young, you can do that. But you got to really find your niche and go. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm still trying to find my thing. At the moment, I'm very thoroughly enjoying working on a dairy farm. But I know that just kind of from my background or whatever, someday I'm going to own my own business and I'm going to be doing something on my own. Or if this YouTube and podcasting thing goes great, because I've always been, Nathan can vouch that I've always been big on making content and wanting to get it on video.
I think it'd be cool to see somebody that I'm very close to succeed in this area too, because we don't have a lot of that around here. We're just kind of a small area.
If anybody's big in this town, it's either their ancestor or something of that nature struck it big in some aspect of whatever, and they got
trades or commercially,
Yep.
businessman. But
nobody around here's really done the social media thing.
No, the social media thing is definitely different.
And
there could be some people from around here, but nobody that's stayed here.
Yeah, no. And I definitely plan to stay around here. I hope Nathan does too, because this area we've grown up with, and we've got some good hunting buddies and friends, and yeah, Nathan's family. I would say something cool about Nathan's family is all of his cousins and everything. They all live in like right area, so it's like
just around the block.
Oh shoot, we don't have this. Oh, just go over to Ivan and Jessica's or something like that and snag it or whatever. And they have a very tight knit circle there on their.
I really like that that portion of everything. Being able just to hop next door and it be my aunt and uncle's is, or my grandma and grandpa's is really nice.
Hey Danica, bring over an Xbox controller.
Yeah, back in the day, my brother and we'd always go downstairs
play the
Xbox,
Wii or something.
Play the Wii, yeah. And if your cousins live right down the road, we're talking a couple 100 yards from my house. And mind you, we don't live in the city either, so we're close, but yet far. Like, I can still go outside and shoot wherever I want, but
yeah. When I came around, Nathan's sister had her and her boyfriend were over, and I was introducing myself to him. I said, I'm the friend that never left. I came around here, and I just kind of became one of the family.
Yeah,
I'll
pretty
go
much.
on family vacations and stuff like that. I just never left.
Yeah, and it's great because we go up north. We're building a cabin up north. We go up north, and he was all in his electrical business. Had his whole giddy up there, wiring up some.
I'm still like
light
electrical.
sockets
I love
and-
electrical.
Yeah. It was great.
That's part
had a
of
great
where I
time.
got the Snapchat thing, because we were looking at Nathan's phone and had these Snapchats of me. Nathan, so I had mentioned a little bit how I was a pansy in some respects. Nathan is at the bottom of this ladder. He's holding the ladder for me, and he's shaking the ladder while I'm at the very top of the how tall was that?
You were probably 15 feet up.
Yeah.
Maybe 20.
Well, it
No,
felt
not
like a
20.
lot
It was
more than that.
definitely 50.
It was high. And Nathan's down there shaking it, and it took me 2 hours to hang these 2 boxes up there. I was such a pansy,
So
but it was
funny.
so scary. Nathan was
He's
laughing.
like, do not move this ladder.
I'm like, Nathan? I was so angry, but I enjoyed working on their cabin. I hope I get to go up there with them when they go to finish it.
Definitely. I plan on making a trip up there, at least. Maybe even everybody going up there.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And if
Everybody
I
and
have
their
the
friends are going
vehicle,
up
and if I
there.
have the vehicle done or something like that,
Yeah.
some highway rollers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be, our property's 4 out. Everybody, if you're from Michigan, everybody knows up north can be an hour and a half up north.
You
or
ain't
it can
kidding.
Be over the bridge to the Upper Peninsula. Our up north is an hour or so south of the bridge, Lewiston, Michigan.
Yep.
About
Lewiston.
4 hours from us, roughly. I love going up north. That is one of my favorite times up there. Just
It's
a small,
peaceful.
Yeah, so peaceful, and it's just a small little town that we're
And-
next to, and we're still, 4 miles or so outside of town, and there's state trails that butt right up to our property.
Ride
we
your quad, do
quads,
whatever.
dirt bikes, everything all around. We go fishing all the time because there's lakes everywhere, and it's always a good time when we go up there. It's never a dull moment. I love sitting around the campfire and everything too.
Cooking meals on the fire, cooking bluegills you catch that day with your grandpa and stuff like that.
It just takes you back and feels
To your roots.
Yeah, it takes you back to your roots. It really humbles you. It's
You're
nice.
grounded with, you're with Michigan. It's like down here we kind of get caught in our everyday.
Caught up in life.
Yeah, caught up in life. But when you go up north, it's like there's the distance between you and back here, because sometimes you just need a little break. Because
100%.
I know here it's like, oh, where do you want to go to dinner? We got El Cerrito, Dairy Queen, and Applebee's maybe.
Dairy Queen was a big hangout for a while, all through high school.
Oh, Dairy
it was
Queen.
every night, every other night.
Every
we'd
day
go.
before Career Center.
Yeah.
So those ladies had to deal with
DQ
us
at 9
every
o'clock,
day.
everybody. We'd hang out at DQ from 9 o'clock till they kicked us out.
Yeah.
And then we'd go to Walmart.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes
about all
you
we
get.
have.
Yeah. Good old Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Like Nathan's family, the one in Quincy, the Dairy Queen in Quincy, everybody's worked there.
Yeah, my sisters work there. 3 of my cousins have worked there. Well, more than that. Like 5 of my cousins have worked there. My aunt manages it.
Yeah, it's just part of our tight-knit
Yeah.
circle of town, just
and that
our
Dairy
area.
Queen's, we always say it, it's 10 times better than the cold
Yeah,
water
they
Dairy
give you more, I swear. They do. You get a banana split, you get a banana split. So if you're going to have a cheat day, go to the one in Quincy, not Court. But I've enjoyed it. Nathan, have you enjoyed hopping on here and kind of getting a roll?
It's extremely fun. I had a great time just talking. And I always have a good time talking.
It's been an
I
hour.
tell my girlfriend Susan all the time. I said, literally, me and my friends could go anywhere, sit down, and talk for hours and have a great time.
Yeah, we
She's
started
not so much
this.
like that, but
Yeah, we
she's getting
started this and it was like, well, where's your script at? And I said, we're going to do this from the hip and it's going to turn out. And I started this and I said, well, I'm going to start this and this is how I'm going to start it. And don't be laughing because if I mess it up or whatever. But this has turned out great and I knew this is how it would go once we got on a roll. But I'd like to thank Nathan for being the first guest on the City Slicker podcast or on the City Slicker Productions for YouTube. And this will not be the first or the last, time that Nathan will hop on here. He'll be he'll be here for a lot of them because we haven't even dipped into half of our hunting stories. So
that was just what's happened in the last year.
Yeah, that's just the auto mechanics thing, and then you got skipped over the top. So if you enjoyed today's episode, I thoroughly enjoyed myself today. Go ahead and share this, share it out, and give it a like. I didn't reach the goal of getting 50 people subscribed on YouTube, but we got 34, 35 people or so. And I would, kind of, if you have your goals, I ended last week's kind of on a motivational side of things. If you have goals, your goals are kind of like a ladder. The top of the ladder is where you want to be, but make sure you take it one rung at a time, because I found that when I was starting this podcast, I was trying to jump 2 rungs up, and I was falling down 3 because I skipped something or other. So take it one step at a time, and just like we had mentioned earlier, what you put into it, you'll get out of it, and stay consistent. And I'd like to thank Nathan. Give me a little handshake. Always good. Thanks for coming, and thanks for watching the City Slicker podcast.